moment the woman collapsed in front of him, gasping silently with panic frozen in her eyes, Aaron Cole felt the entire world narrow to one terrifying truth. If he hesitated even a second, she would die. The lunch crowd around the small city cafe froze in confusion, plates half lifted, phones half reached, but Aaron moved without thinking, his instincts louder than fear, louder than doubt, louder than the quiet voice in his head that always reminded him how fragile his own life already was. He had no idea who she was. He had no idea how powerful she would later become in his world. All he knew was that a stranger needed help, and he could not turn away. If you believe that one act of kindness can change 2 lives forever, take a moment right now to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Touch, where stories like this remind us that humanity still matters. Aaron Cole was not a man life had been gentle with. At 36, he looked older than his years, not because of age, but because responsibility had carved lines into his face long before time could. He was a single father raising his 8-year-old son, Noah, in a small rented apartment that smelled faintly of detergent and old paint. The mornings were always rushed, the afternoons always heavy with exhaustion, and the nights often filled with worry he never voiced aloud. Noah's mother had passed away suddenly years earlier, leaving Aaron with grief he buried deep and a child he loved more fiercely than his own breath. Every decision he made revolved around one question: would this protect Noah or risk losing what little stability they had? That afternoon, Aaron had taken Noah to the city center as a rare treat. It was a bright day, sunlight bouncing off glass buildings, people moving with purpose and privilege he barely recognized anymore. He had saved for weeks to afford a simple lunch, wanting Noah to feel normal, included, like other kids who laughed freely without sensing the invisible weight their parents carried. While Noah studied a menu with childish seriousness, Aaron stood in line, calculating prices in his head, preparing to sacrifice his own meal if needed. That was when the woman behind him began to choke. It started subtly, a sharp intake of breath, a hand pressed to her throat, eyes widening as panic spread. People noticed but did nothing, uncertainty rooting them in place. Aaron turned just in time to see her stagger, her face flushing an alarming red, her body betraying her. Without waiting for permission or applause, he stepped forward, guiding her firmly, applying pressure the way he had learned years ago in a safety training course he barely remembered until that moment. Seconds stretched painfully long, his arms steady despite the fear screaming in his chest. And then, suddenly, she coughed violently, air rushing back into her lungs, life returning in messy, beautiful chaos. The cafe erupted in relieved murmurs. Someone clapped, someone else reached for a phone. The woman bent over, shaking, alive. Aaron stepped back quietly, heart pounding, already scanning for Noah, who watched him with wide, admiring eyes. To Aaron, it was over, just another moment of survival in a life filled with them. He returned to his place in line, unaware that the woman he had saved was named Vivienne Hartwell, the CEO of one of the most influential technology investment firms in the world, a billionaire whose name commanded boardrooms and bent markets. Vivienne Hartwell was used to control. Her life was built on precision, schedules, and decisions measured in millions. That day she had stepped into the cafe seeking a rare pause, a moment of anonymity, and instead found herself staring death in the face. As she recovered, her hands trembling slightly, her gaze followed the man who had saved her. There was nothing remarkable about his appearance at first glance. Worn jacket, tired eyes, a posture shaped by years of carrying more than he should. Yet something about the way he moved, quietly returning to his child without expectation, unsettled her far more than the choking itself. Their lives separated again as quickly as they had collided. Aaron paid for lunch, held Noah's hand as they walked back into the sunlight, and filed the incident away as something strange and intense but finished. He did not leave with numbers exchanged or promises made. He left with a son who looked at him like a hero, and a heart that still raced from adrenaline. Life resumed its familiar rhythm of work shifts, school pickups, bills stacked neatly in anxious piles. But Vivian did not forget. For the first time in years, her sleep was restless. The image of that man, calm under pressure, gentle with his child, replayed in her mind. She had built an empire by spotting value others overlooked, and something told her this moment mattered. Not because he saved her life, though that alone was monumental, but because he reminded her of something she had lost long ago: genuine, uncomplicated kindness. Without press releases or cameras, she quietly instructed her team to find him. Not to reward him publicly, not to write a check and move on, but to understand who he was. When Aaron received an email weeks later inviting him to a meeting at a downtown office building he could barely afford to enter, he almost deleted it, assuming it was a scam. Life had taught him skepticism as a survival skill. But something urged him to respond. He borrowed a clean shirt from a neighbor, dropped Noah at school, and walked into a world of marble floors and quiet power, feeling like an intruder in someone else's dream. Vivian recognized him instantly. In person, without the haze of panic, she noticed the strength in his restraint, the softness in his eyes. She thanked him, not with extravagance, but with sincerity that surprised even herself. She learned about Noah, about the nights Aaron worked late, about dreams he had quietly abandoned to keep his son safe. Aaron learned nothing of her wealth at first, only that she was a businesswoman with an intense presence and a gratitude that felt deeper than words. What began as a single meeting grew into conversations. Vivian found reasons to keep Aaron around, offering him consulting work, valuing his perspective, shaped not by privilege but by lived experience. Aaron struggled with insecurity, constantly questioning whether he belonged in rooms filled with confidence and wealth. He feared being pitied, being seen as charity rather than capable. But Vivian never treated him as lesser. She challenged him, listened to him, and slowly, unexpectedly, began to care for him. Their bond grew in daylight moments. Walks through city parks during lunch breaks, coffee shared between meetings, Vivian meeting Noah, who accepted her with the blunt honesty only children possess. For Aaron, the greatest challenge was trust. Life had taught him that good things were temporary, that hope was dangerous. For Vivian, the challenge was vulnerability. She had spent years armored against emotion, believing love was a liability she could not afford. When the truth of her wealth finally emerged, it shook Aaron deeply. He felt small, exposed, afraid of becoming dependent or losing himself. He pulled back, convinced that someone like her could never truly want someone like him. Vivian, for the first time in her life, faced rejection not based on strategy or numbers, but fear. She realized that saving her life had not been the miracle. Helping him believe he deserved more might be. It took time, patience, and honesty for the walls between them to soften. Aaron learned that her money did not protect her from loneliness. Vivian learned that his humility did not mean weakness. Together they faced judgment from a world that loved stories but misunderstood reality. But in quiet moments, in shared laughter and mutual respect, they built something real. Before the ending, I have a special request for you watching right now. Please take a moment to comment your thoughts below. Tell us where you are watching from and whether this story reminded you of someone in your own life. Your comments mean more than you know. The day Aaron realized he was in love with Vivian was ordinary. Sunlight filled his small apartment as she helped Noah with homework at the kitchen table, laughing softly, fully present. There was no grand gesture, no dramatic confession, just the understanding that life had quietly changed. That kindness, once given freely in a moment of crisis, had returned multiplied in ways he never imagined. Vivian did not fall for Aaron because he saved her life. She fell for him because he lived his every day saving someone else's, even when no one was watching. And Aaron did not fall for her wealth or status.